Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Beloved classic rock group REO Speedwagon rocks Jiffy Lube live in Bristow, Virginia tonight. I spoke to longtime bass player Bruce Hall when the band played Warner Theater in DC in 2015, breaking down their biggest hits like Roll With the Changes, Keep On Loving You, Take It On the Run, and Can't Fight This Feeling. Bruce, thanks for joining us.
You bet, Jason. Hi, how's it going?
Good. Where are you joining us from? Where are you calling from?
I'm down here in Orlando, Florida. I'm about ready to go to the airport here soon and jump on a plane and head up that way. But we do love DC. We haven't been up to DC in a while. I mean, that'll be a ball. I got some good friends that live up there. Try to act like tourists a little bit, run around the mall and do things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you fit in great. There's a lot of those tourists around here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. But you joined the band back in, was it 77?
Yeah, in January of 1977. Long time ago.
Yeah.
I know. It's been, gosh, how many years is that now? It seems like it's about, almost 40.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Does the time really fly? Does it sort of seem, like yesterday you guys were forming?
Oh, sure. I mean, it seems like I easily can remember the day when we first. Well, the band was Champaign-Urbana. That's where we come from, Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, and the band. I wasn't in the band when I was just a kid. I was in band, but I was just one of the local bands, and so was REO at the time. And this is before they actually made records, and they were starting to become very popular at the time. I remember on campus and everything. And selling out all the clubs, and when all the bands used to play on the quad for all kinds of rallies, this or that, it was REO was always the biggest draw. So when they started recording, my group started too. We started recording at the time. We all went to Connecticut. There was this guy in Connecticut that had us come up to his place and record. The band was a little bit different. It was more of an extended jam band. REO in the beginning had a lot of songs that were, it was kind of political. A couple of songs are pretty political. And then there were a lot of sections in the songs that, it wasn't real radio friendly at the time. The band was more, it was a good band, definitely, but it was more FM kind of stuff and not so much AM radio friendly. After a while, after Kevin, he was in the band for a little while and then left and came back. He and Gary decided to, in order to continue to be successful, we needed to write songs that were more radio friendly. So started doing that a little bit, getting rid of some of the extended jams in the middle of songs and just making songs that were a little bit easier for radio to play. So that was kind of a turning point. That started in about just before I got in the band. And then the first album I did with the band was called You Can Tune a Piano, But You Can't Tune a Fish. And on that record, we had Roll to Changes and Time for Me to Fly and songs like that. And those were songs that did pretty well for radio, and we still play those songs, at every concert.
And you can still hear them played on the radio today, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Take me back to that moment when, you mentioned how the transition from sort of a jam band to a couple more radio-friendly hits, and, I guess you joined in, 77, and Roll With the Changes, I think, blew up in 78, I think. Take me back to that time when, basically when you guys saw your popularity just skyrocket. What was that like to be driving around and all of a sudden you can hear your stuff on the radio?
Well, the band started, they made their first album in 1971. It's just titled REO Speedwagon, and it didn't have anything on it like we were talking about before that was real radio friendly, but that's when the popularity of the band, because then there were a lot of FM stations that started playing the band's music around campuses and stuff in the Midwest. And what happened then is the first time we heard one of our songs, I believe it was Roll the Changes, on AM radio was out of St. Louis, KC Radio out of St. Louis. And that was pretty amazing, actually. And so that was our first time actually making the charts as far as AM radio airplay. The albums started after that doing pretty well. I mean, there was Tuna Fish record, and then came, what was next? 9 Lives. I think we had 9 Lives, and on that album we had, what was the single off that record? I can't remember exactly. There was, My Song Back on the Road was on there. But then we went and we did a thing called First Decade of Rock and Roll. So we did a full 2-album thing set that was the history of the band up to that point. And then as that came out, we didn't really have to record anything for that. So we were in the studio recording the High Infidelity album. And then we let that one out of the cage, and boy, it went crazy. That one went nuts. So we jumped on that rocket and took off. About every song on there we heard on the radio. So that's kind of what we started doing. We started trying to write good songs that people could hear. More people could hear on the radio, and we were lucky enough to. On the High Infidelity record, we had about 5 singles off that album, and
was that the
took us number 1.
Was that the album with Can't Fight This Feeling, or was that Keep on Loving You, Take It on the Run?
Keep on Loving You, Take It on the Run. Yeah, that was all on there. In Your Letter, let's see what else was on there. Most of those kind of songs. It's hard to remember which albums we had what songs now. And we still write and record. It's just that we have a bunch of songs that we don't know. We're not going to just make another record and put it out there and let it just kind of get lost in the turmoil of the record business now. Nobody seems to know what's happening as far as, well, especially with classic rock. I mean, we make records, we still write lots of songs, but as far as for classic rock bands like us, that's what they call us, classic rock bands, there's not really a lot of avenues to follow anymore. Radio doesn't play our new stuff. They'll play our old stuff plenty. But new stuff is a little more difficult, so we just keep writing and recording, and someday we'll know what to do with all this material laying around.
You mentioned the classic rock band, quote unquote. But I mean, speaking from personal experience, I mean, this is more my parents' era was when you guys were blowing up. But I listened to that all growing up with them, and so like there's a new generation that follows this whole classic rock thing, and it is the music that they themselves grew up on, So talk about just how cool it is that the music can be sort of cross-generational and timeless like that.
Yeah, it's that I find it to be, honestly, it's a beautiful thing because of the fact that. We thought we were doing something that was good. We thought we were writing songs that were good and recording them well and playing live shows well. But it seemed like it was the first time in usually each generation that comes along takes music by the horns and kind of wants to change it into something that's theirs. I mean, that's kind of, we did it, 50s rock was, Elvis and all that got turned into, Beatles and Stones and all that. And it was a little bit the same, but not quite. It wasn't quite the same. But the generation of us, we got to be lucky enough to where the parents would show it to the kids, and the kids gobbled it up, too. And they were starting to experiment with their own idea of what was theirs as far as music. But they embraced their parents' music. Still, and we at our concerts we see that we see all kinds of young people singing along with our songs. So it's not like it's just something that that they didn't know about it before. It's like they grew up with this stuff too. So it's the new generation, you and your parents. You actually you shared a lot of likes. You both kind of loved the music of that time. And that doesn't happen a lot. Music seems to be like my parents. When I started making music and started to learn guitar, my own man, he'd go, "Oh Jesus, that's like garbage. He thought it was terrible, and he was a sax man. You know, he played sax and clarinet, and he had his own Dixieland band, and he just thought it was too loud and noise and all that.
Well, we get the same pushback with a lot of the hip hop stuff we love, so it's okay. It continues on, and I'm sure one day we'll be saying the same thing. You know, turn down that noise about some other metamorphosis of music. You know, so that's just the way it goes.
Yeah. I love it. That's what music is supposed to be, though. It changes. It can change, and it changes all the time. For each generation that wants to call it its own, entity, they want it to be personal.
Exactly. But you mentioned sort of the history behind it. If you had to trace REO Speedwagon back to, if you had to draw a line of if you guys are sort of a direct descendant of a certain band, who do you think almost like influenced you guys that allowed your sound to even come around?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question. We were all influenced by, at the time, there was the British invasion came along. That was the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and all that. That was a big thing in our lives. We were all about the same age, young, 13, 14, that sort of thing. And so everybody wanted to learn to play. And then after that, and where we come from, there's a lot of country music, too. A lot of country gets played through that area.
Oh, yeah.
So I think what happened is it got mixed in a lot with rock. It started, country, and this was before now country and rock. Gosh, they sound, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah, country today is more like a lot of that, Southern rock, Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, that kind of stuff. It's almost, it's less Hank Williams twangy stuff and more like a Florida Georgia line.
Right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. But back when we were still developing, it wasn't so much that. It was more the Conway Twitty and Tom T. Hall and all these Loretta Lynn and those old kind of country songs. And but they were great, and people would we all knew these for some reason. Everybody kind of knew them.
You gotta love Conway Twitty.
Conway Twitty's awesome.
Yeah.
All those guys were great. Are you kidding? And that's country has always had a little spot in rock. Buddy Holly and the Crickets, they had a lot of country influence. So country always seemed to be right in our neighborhood, and so I'm sure it added flavors to things we were like Take It on the Run. We did a song called it, and that's been covered by country artists today. So I'd like to think that where we grew up, the fabric of the music scene there was a lot of, and also U of I, University of Illinois in Champaign had a lot of. There's a music school there. Jazz guys come. Anyway, so there's a lot of that too. Blues. There was Chicago with Chicago blues happening too. Yeah. So that all got incorporated into all of it, and I think it's kind of the Midwest is a unique area for bands to begin because of all the country and blues and just kind of folk. Even Danny Fogelberg came from around there, Peoria. So there's all that influence too. We were just we just kind of went with whatever it was we came up with, and that just happened to be what REO sound is. It's not something we'd thought about. It's just something we do.
Well, if you had to stop and think about it, it wouldn't have felt authentic, So I think you did it right. You were right. You were just playing you.
We did okay.
Definitely. And you mentioned Chicago, but you toured with the band Chicago last year, right?
Yeah, talk about a bunch of nice guys. They were fabulous. They're great. They're like real musicians. They read music and all that. Yeah. But as far as guys, they're great. And touring with them was so much fun. We had a ball. We did this cool thing at the end of every show where we played. I think it was about 6 songs, if not 8 songs together. Both bands on stage at the same time. We played on their songs. They played on our songs. It was fun. It was really fun.
Awesome. And just kind of continuing our little historical arc analogy about, bands that might have influenced you guys, which ones today do you think you guys kind of fed into and spawned off that are around today? Is there any bands that you dig on now?
Oh, wow. We know Dave Grohl, and the boys in Foo Fighters, and whenever we're all there's a place in LA where everybody rehearses. It's called SIR. There's one called SIR, another one called Mates. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sometimes when we're over there rehearsing, they all come filing in. They just sit down like, play us a song, play us Riding the Storm Out. We want to hear Riding the Storm Out. So we'll play Riding the Storm Out.
Nice.
So I think we influence bands just sometimes with, I don't know if it's the music so much as it's just the fact that we love what we do, and we've been doing it for a while. So I think they just want to see if they can find that. They're kind of, everybody's looking for, how did you guys actually do this for so long? And we're going, we never really think about it. We just, we just kind of love what we do.
Is it still a thrill, even after all these years, still touring the country?
Oh, you bet. It's still after all these years, I got to admit, I can't imagine having done anything else that would have been this rewarding. It's just every time you get on stage, and it feels like you're playing for a bunch of friends everywhere we go now. It's like some people we've seen lots of times out there. Other times we'll see people for the first time, but they're singing our songs, so it seems like we're friends already, so it just is being music and traveling around in a band. I would say for anyone if they had a chance to do it, they should try it, even if they're older. I think it's probably the best job in the entire whole world.
It's got to be the best job anyone could have. I mean, obviously, grueling road schedule and all that, but I mean, to step out on that stage, man, that's got to be incredible.
It's the best. And traveling isn't so bad. I mean, really, we travel in these nice luxury buses, and it's great. Honestly, it becomes like you're home away from home. Everything you need is right there, and it's a great way to travel down the road and to get around. I mean, flying is okay. We used to have a plane, but it's kind of like then you don't get to touch base with like many people. Like a lot of times we get all excited about stopping at truck stops.
Right, yeah.
We'll go, truck stop. Oh, so yeah, we'll pull in there, buy things we don't really need. But they have great old record collections in there. Usually these compilations. We always do that. Yeah.
There's something about just on the side of the road, grab that cup of coffee. It just makes you feel alive, man.
Yeah, it's fun. That's right. And there's something to be said about it. It's hard, I know, for most folks to get up in the morning and go, oh, I got to go to work. I got to go do this thing I really don't want to do, and just because I got to have the cash to pay for this and that. So I've never had to go through that. I've been lucky enough that I've been doing this all my life. So I don't think I can't relate to that too well. I feel for folks who have to get up and go to work every day and they hate their job. That must be terrible.
Right. Yeah, you get to go do something you love every day. Hey, before you go, I just wanted to know, like, as the bassist for this group, is there a certain song that you look forward to playing to the most on stage? I mean, I know it's got to be a different answer, say, if you're the vocalist or lead guitar or even drums. I'm sure you all have your own little personal favorite segments that you do in your show each time. But what do you look forward to most as bassist? Is there a part that really gets...
Well, sure. The song that I honestly like to play the most, and people have asked me this before, I like Time for Me to Fly. I like that song a lot. I mean, it's... There's just some. I mean, it's not hard. The bass part's pretty simple, really, but Kevin wrote that song. Gosh, I don't know how many years ago. It was a long time ago. It was on Time for Me to Fly. Was that on I think that was on You Can Sing the Piano, but You Can't Sing the Fish. And so that was 1978. But the song is. It's a love song, but it's not a love song. It's about putting up with somebody, just discovering the fact that I think it's time for me to go.
Right.
I got to go. I can't take it anymore.
I guarantee lots of people will relate to that one.
Oh yeah, but I tell you, when we sing it every night, they stand up and go, "Whoa!" As soon as Kevin starts playing the guitar part. Because, everybody goes through the heartbreak of love, falling in love and then having it fall apart and finally just going, admitting it to yourself that, it's time for me to go.
People breaking up right in the middle of your concert, man. See, come on.
Let's hope that's not happening.
No, you have plenty of songs that promote the more positive side of that too. The
yes,
falling
we do.
in love.
Roll to Changes. I Can't Fight This Feeling is all about being friends with a lady.
Keep
or a
on
lady
loving
with
you.
with a
come
guy,
on.
or
Keep on. Yeah.
Yeah, those are all. And in fact, people say they use those in their weddings and things like that. So that's pretty amazing stuff when they choose your song for the most important day of their life.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest honors there's got to be. We talked about how much you love getting on the road, so let's let you get on the road.
Yeah, it's time. In fact, I'm just about ready to leave for the airport here.
All right, well.
We're going up to Washington, D.C. tonight.
Well, have a safe flight. We really appreciate you taking the time, especially as you're heading out the door. Thanks so much for calling in.
You betcha.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.